to 200 200.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yes!
This is the Ross Kaminsky Show.
You're a great American.
Now, Ross Kaminsky
Come on, man.
on Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
Come on, man. I love that. That is really good. It's even better than Trump's "he's a great guy." Because in that, with "come on, man," I just feel like Joe Biden is talking to me. You know, or maybe you. He's talking to both of us.
Suffered the pressure.
I wonder how many more of those we're going to get over the next 4 years. How many of those little sound bites we can play of Joe Biden sounding like he needs to be over in that memory care facility that I drove by yesterday. Oh, we had a really nice hike yesterday. I don't remember the exact name of the place, and I'm not just saying that so that you don't go crowd the place we went hiking. It was already kind of crowded. But Jefferson County Foothills, they've got some really nice hiking places. So this was Golden. You go to Golden Gate Canyon Road off of 93. Turn left, so you're starting to go up the hill. You go about 5 minutes, and there's a little trailhead on the left. It's a small parking lot. The parking lot probably holds 20 cars, and it was full, but we just waited until someone left. But gosh, that was a nice hike. It was a little over 2 hours with the kids, maybe 2.5. Didn't bring enough water, which was dumb, but it wasn't a hot day. And just a beautiful hike, uphill going out, downhill coming back, spectacular views over Golden and then over Denver. And, oh, it was great. First time doing a big hike like that in a while. And what a wonderful, lovely day it was yesterday in the 50s and sunny. And, well, I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Enjoyed it. I enjoyed that weekend a lot. It was the first weekend in a while that really felt like a weekend to me, like getting out and doing stuff. Okay, we got a ton to do today. I want to let you know a couple of guests we have coming up at 7:05 and 8:05. Those aren't the only guests in the show, but two I'm going to tell you about right now. 7:05, we've got Gail Norton. Gail Norton was the first female Attorney General of Colorado, the first female Secretary of the Interior for the United States of America. And we're going to talk about why the Biden administration is starting so quickly with their assault on oil and gas. I think Gail knows these players, and she's going to help us understand what's going on. So that's from a conservative perspective. From a liberal perspective, at 8:05, we're going to have a dude on the show named Michael Huttner. And I don't know if you've been involved with Colorado politics for a long time, but if you have, you've probably heard Michael Huttner's name. He's a big fundraiser for not just the left, but the fairly far left in Colorado. He founded an organization called Progress Now. Part of the whole effort, the whole sadly successful effort to turn Colorado blue, and now he's looking to do kind of more of the same. He's got big plans for raising money to help the left dominate the state even more. And I always think it's useful to have folks like this on the show to understand how the left thinks. This guy he's not Antifa, but nor is he a moderate Democrat. He's pretty far left, and he's a fairly big player. And I think you're going to find it interesting, even if he annoys you. So I want to get you updated on a couple of things regarding COVID vaccinations. You'll hear some more in the Ross Report today about some thoughts regarding how it's not going all that well, not nearly as well as we hoped it would go when we saw how fast vaccines were developed and how relatively fast, by government standards, the government worked to approve these vaccines, and everyone's so excited, and we're going to have 20 million people done by the end of 2020. Remember that. We're going to have 20 million people vaccinated in the United States by the end of 2020, and we ended up with somewhere around 2 million, 2.5, something like that. The nation that is leading the world in terms of vaccinations, in terms of percentages of their population, although it's a small country, they're still leading a lot of other small countries, is Israel. They're doing the best job. Europe is doing a terrible job. Here in Colorado, we seem to be doing okay. There's some question about whether we could be doing more faster if we had more supply. But I just wanted to give you an update on who's getting vaccinated when. Starting a week from today, Coloradans between the age of 65 and 69, as well as teachers and child care providers, will be eligible to receive the vaccine. They're moving that up a little bit. In part, what they're finding, and I agree with this, is that if you have a group that's supposed to come before you, like right now, the groups that are eligible for the vaccine, and I'm going to go to the Denver Post for this: healthcare workers, residents of long-term care facilities, first responders, and people who are 70 or older. Those folks can get the vaccine. At some point, even if a fairly substantial percentage of that group, that early group, isn't vaccinated, you got to figure that a lot of those people aren't vaccinated because they're choosing not to be for whatever reason. And I'm not going to talk about all those reasons right now. But the point is, if you've got, let's say, 70% of that first group vaccinated, I'm just making up a number, then you might as well open it up to the next group. Because if you start waiting till you've got 80, 90, close to 100% of the first group, you're going to be waiting a long, long time and delaying for these other groups. So it's interesting that the governor moved teachers up. You see in some other places, notably Chicago right now, teachers claiming that they are afraid of coronavirus and not wanting to go back to school, even though the data is quite clear that schools are places of very low transmission of coronavirus. And other studies appear to show that teachers, and of course kids don't get corona very much, but that to the extent that teachers or kids are getting coronavirus, they're getting it as much while being out of school as being in school. So I don't know what's up with these teachers' unions, whether they're just lying and they want more money or this or that, which is probably what's going on, or whether they're actually afraid to go back to school. Now, I've said this before. I'm not going to dwell on it. If you're a 68-year-old teacher and maybe you've got asthma or some other health condition, I'd be a little concerned too. After all, in your day-to-day life, doing remote school, you're probably not going out and getting near a lot of other people. You're protecting yourself, as you should. But schools are also full of large, large numbers of teachers in their 20s and 30s and 40s who have almost no coronavirus risk. And for all these people to be saying, we're not going to go back to school when it's hurting our kids and their parents so much. You know who it's not hurting as much is rich kids, upper middle class kids, where more often it's a two-parent household, whereas lower incomes, there's a higher propensity to single-parent household. So in a single-parent household, you get the kid at home, the mom can't work. It's more often a mom than a dad. Sometimes it's a dad, can't work or can't work as much, doesn't make as much money. Maybe in the single-parent household or the lower income household, maybe that parent didn't quite have the educational attainment himself or herself, so it's difficult for that parent to help a kid with a homework, whereas maybe the upper middle class family or the upper income family, maybe one or both of those parents have graduate degrees and can hire nannies and tutors, and it matters less. I mean, socially it's bad for the upper middle class kid not to be in school, but educationally it's horrendous for poor kids who need to break that cycle of poverty and don't want to be poor like their parents are and want to get out of all of that and make something of themselves and get a job and have the fulfillment that comes with success and not end up continuing the cycle of poverty. And these are the places where the teachers, most of all, are trying to not go back to school. It's shameful. I've said this 1,000 times. I'll make it 1,001. Teachers' unions should be banned, or at the very least, they should not be allowed to collectively bargain. Even FDR knew that government employees should not be allowed to collectively bargain. Anyway, let me get back to the state stuff, just so we know. State Health Department doesn't have data specific for people over 65, but about 12% of COVID-19 deaths in Colorado have been in people between 60 and 69 years of age, about 12%. People in their 70s account for about double that, about 24%. And those over 80 are more than double that. Over 54% of the death toll in Colorado have been people over the age of 80. People over the age of 70, not just in their 70s, but 70 and older, so 70, 80, 90, all the way up. Now we're talking about close to 80% of all deaths. People who are between 65 and 69 who sign up for vaccines, they will be randomized as far as when they'll get the vaccine. Starting a week from today, you can visit covidvaccine.org, or I'll give you a phone number if you want to get a pencil or a pen or a crayon or a piece of charcoal, and you can write down this phone number, or you can call the state hotline, and they will give you information about how to get in touch with providers. But let me just make sure we all understand here. The state hotline does not itself add anyone to a waiting list. Here's the number, 877-268-2926, which is 877-268-2926, 877-CO-VAX-CO. Very clever. 877-CO-VAX-CO. COVAX, Colorado. Clever. The governor said that some people will get it starting February 9th. Some people will get it February 27th. Everyone can get it, but not everyone all at once. Teachers will learn about exactly when and how they're going to get vaccinated. They will learn that through their school districts. Classroom aides, bus drivers, and other staff in student-facing roles will also be eligible in this phase, as will about 100 workers essential for the continuity of state government. By the way, Governor Polis got the first shot in Commerce City yesterday or the day before. Marlon, his partner, is also supposed to get vaccinated. Not sure exactly why Marlon's getting vaccinated. I guess it's to reduce the risk to the governor, but they've both had it fairly recently. I asked the governor, why are you getting the vaccine since you're relatively young, otherwise healthy, and recently had it? And he said, it is very, very important for me to show the public that I believe in the safety of this vaccine, and I believe the importance of the vaccine. And so not only, he said in email to me, not only am I going to get the vaccine, I'm going to get the vaccine in a very public way because I want to show the public, which of course is quite different from the answer that we got from State Senator Paul Lundeen, who said that he's not going to get the vaccine until it would be his turn if he weren't elected to office, right? So just based on his age and lack of other health issues, he'll get his vaccine at that time, whenever that would be. We're going to have Speaker of the State House Alec Garnett on the show, not tomorrow, but Wednesday. And I'm going to ask him that question, too. I do understand the continuity of government thing, and I actually do think that if somehow the governor were to be incapable of working, that's a much different thing than any one state senator being incapable of working. So anyway, that's the update. People between the ages of 65 and 69 and teachers and other similarly positioned folks will be able to start getting the vaccine soon. I want to just talk a minute about a question that a listener asked, because it's actually very fascinating. So there's this really, really massive, incredibly successful hedge fund. Not just a hedge fund, it's a whole giant financial company that does a lot of things. It's not just a hedge fund. And they're called Citadel. They're owned by a guy named Ken Griffin, who's a billionaire now, thanks to Citadel. And one division of Citadel is called Citadel Securities, and Citadel Securities is an electronic stock trading firm. This has come up in the context, this company's name has come up in the context of the whole GameStop thing, because a huge percentage of the orders from Robinhood, which were a huge percentage of the orders driving up GameStop and some of these other companies, ended up getting routed to Citadel. Now, I'm going to have to just talk about this a bit now and then a little bit later in the show, but here's what I want you to keep in mind. Remember how, now this is going back a couple years, but when we talked about the operation of Facebook and how Facebook is free for the user. And what I said at the time, and it's absolutely still true, is that Facebook is obviously a very expensive service to provide. You know, right? Billions of dollars a year to operate that thing. So if you're getting for free something that costs billions of dollars a year to operate, then it means that you are not the customer, you are the product. Right? It must mean that there's value in having you use it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be allowed to use it for free in most circumstances. And of course, you are the product on Facebook. You are what is being offered up to the advertisers so that they can charge money to the advertisers so that you will see the ads. There is an analog when it comes to financial market trading, in particular to stock market trading, because one of the big things that Robinhood offered and that a whole bunch of other big firms have followed is commission-free stock trading. Now, obviously, it is not a cheap thing to offer you stock trading services. There's this big infrastructure behind it, all of the clearing, all of the money moving around, all of the accountants, all of the people doing compliance with regulations, and on and on and on, building the app, maintaining the website, sending your statements. You get the idea. Super expensive to provide you stock trading services, and yet it's free. Why? Because you are just barely the customer. In a very significant way, you are the product. And the way it works is they sell your stock order to Citadel. And then Citadel executes your stock order after Citadel paid Robinhood to be sent your order. I'll tell you what, this is interesting and important enough. I'm going to come back and do more of this right after this.
If you missed it earlier, we have your chance to win